Compassion is the basis of morality. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Mostly it is loss which teaches us about the worth of things. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. Every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. The assumption that animals are without rights, and the illusion that our treatment of them has no moral significance, is a positively outrageous example of Western crudity and barbarity. Universal compassion is the only guarantee of morality. Happiness consists in frequent repetition of pleasure. The person who writes for fools is always sure of a large audience. It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else. Every miserable fool who has nothing at all of which he can be proud, adopts as a last resource pride in the nation to which he belongs. He is ready and happy to defend all its faults and follies tooth and nail, thus reimbursing himself for his own inferiority. They tell us that suicide is the greatest piece of cowardice, that suicide is wrong, when it is quite obvious that there is nothing in this world to which every man has a more unassailable title than his own life and person. Compassion for animals is intimately associated with goodness of character, and it may be confidently asserted that he who is cruel to animals cannot be a good man. One should use common words to say uncommon things. Life is a constant process of dying. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. A sense of humor is the only divine quality of man. A high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial. We will gradually become indifferent to what goes on in the minds of other people when we acquire a knowledge of the superficial nature of their thoughts, the narrowness of their views, and of the number of their errors. Whoever attaches a lot of value to the opinions of others pays them too much honor. If children were brought into the world by an act of pure reason alone, would the human race continue to exist? Would not a man rather have so much sympathy with the coming generation as to spare it the burden of existence, or at any rate not take it upon himself to impose that burden upon it in cold blood? Treat a work of art like a prince. Let it speak to you first. Religion is the masterpiece of the art of animal training, for it trains people as to how they shall think. Great men are like eagles, and build their nest on some lofty solitude. It would be better if there were nothing, since there is more pain than pleasure on earth. Every satisfaction is only transitory, creating new desires and new distresses, and the agony of the devoured animal is always far greater than the pleasure of the devourer. We can regard our life as a uselessly disturbing episode in the blissful repose of nothingness. Marrying means to have one's rights and double one's duties. So the problem is not so much to see what nobody has yet seen, as to think what nobody has yet thought concerning that which everybody sees. I have not yet spoken my last word about women. I believe that if a woman succeeds in withdrawing from the mass, or rather raising herself from above the mass, she grows ceaselessly and more than a man. Life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. The safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy. Hope is the confusion of the desire for a thing with its probability. The life of every individual viewed as a whole and in general, and when only its most significant features are emphasized, is really a tragedy. But gone through in detail, it has the character of a comedy. Philosophy is a science, and as such has no articles of faith. Accordingly, in it nothing can be assumed as existing except what is either positively given empirically or demonstrated through indubitable conclusions. Pleasure is never as pleasant as we expected it to be, and pain is always more painful. The pain in the world always outweighs the pleasure. If you don't believe it, compare the respective feelings of two animals, one of which is eating the other. Wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. And the same is true of fame. If we were not all so interested in ourselves, life would be so uninteresting that none of us would be able to endure it.